He was standing outside of the gates in front of the residence when the shooting occurred.
A security guard shot and seriously injured while on duty in Toronto's most affluent neighborhood. The incident making international headlines tonight because of who lives in the home he was guarding. Good evening. The massive mansion belonging to rap superstar Drake was a crime scene today.
This after a security guard positioned in front of the home was shot early this morning. Now, police are trying to determine how and why the man ended up a victim of gun violence. CTV's Raheem Ladani is live tonight in the Bridle Path with the very latest. Raheem.
Nathan and Michelle, good evening. Police are not saying if Drake was even inside his own home at the time of the shooting, but there is plenty of speculation surrounding why he may have been the target. It's known as the Embassy, but this multi-million-dollar mansion owned by Canadian rapper Drake is now a crime scene after one of his security guards was shot overnight.
He was standing outside of the gates in front of the residence when the shooting occurred.
The male security guard was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. Police say as a vehicle drove past the house around 2 o'clock in the morning, at least one person opened fire. The luxurious homes which make up Toronto's Bridle Path neighborhood have many security cameras. Investigators have already looked at footage which they say captures the shooting.
They'll be scouring over the security tape to try and get a license plate and a description of that vehicle, and they'll be hunting down that vehicle as well. It may be stolen, it may not, we don't know.
The motive behind the shooting is a central part of this investigation, which comes in the middle of an ongoing rap feud between Drake and fellow artist Kendrick Lamar.
You make music that electrify 'em. You make music that pacify 'em.
While the rival relationship between the two dates back years, it resurfaced last October, then escalated over the weekend, when both rappers made serious, unsubstantiated claims about the other in their music.
In this beef, Kendrick and Drake are lobbing massive claims of, everything from pedophilia to domestic violence.
While investigators say they are aware of the public dispute, they stopped short of characterizing the shooting as retaliation. Although this would not be the first time a musical battle turned into real violence.
In a genre that has been known for violent activity, so we can call it what it is. It's not a great look.
Police say despite the public's interest, they are treating this like any other shooting in the GTA. They also tell us that they've been in touch with Drake's team, which is cooperating. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. And one man is dead after another early morning shooting near Oakwood and Eglinton.
The incident also sent a woman to hospital. Tonight, neighbors are speaking out about the victim who was well known and liked in the area. CTV's Janice Golding is live tonight with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. We're in a densely populated area of Oakwood Village right now, which is where a well-known man who has lived in the area for a number of years was shot in front of his building in the midst of a group of people. In fact, a witness tells us there were people diving under cars to get out of the way of the gunfire. Young children bring flowers to the crime scene. A makeshift memorial just steps away from a sedan riddled with bullet holes. Meanwhile, another vehicle, also peppered with gunshots, towed away by police.
I heard about 1 o'clock. I heard blam, 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 blam.
So many shots fired near the homes of so many people.
I just hear the gunshot. Just bow, bow, and the brrrr.
I was in my bathroom taking my insulin, and I heard bam, 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 bam.
Heard someone yelling, "Oh my God," so I'm like, okay, it's real.
Investigators say it was just after 1 a.m. when they were called to the scene, a low-rise apartment building on Winona near Vaughan.
Officers responded to the area. They located 2 victims suffering from gunshot wounds.
The victims, a man and a woman, who witnesses say were outside in a group when the shots rang out.
All I have at the moment is that the suspects approached in a vehicle. As to what transpired exactly, that part I don't know at the moment.
Witnesses tell CTV News the female victim could be heard yelling she'd been shot in the hand. The male victim, meanwhile, was also heard screaming for help. Both would be rushed to hospital.
I'm surprised. I don't know how comes he get involved because he was a security at the nightclub.
Well, I know he's a bouncer. He works at the clubs and stuff like that as a security guard.
Residents have identified the man who died in hospital as Trevor, a well-known, well-liked man in his early 30s who'd lived in the building for more than 4 years.
He's a good guy. Quiet. Always go, hi, Mom, how are you?
A very humble, easygoing guy. He will talk to everyone, very polite. To hear that this happened to him is very shocking.
A murder area residents say they can't understand and find even harder to accept. Now, police say they do not know how many people were in the suspect vehicle, but witnesses we spoke to say they believe there were 4 people inside. It's unknown how many people opened fire. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Toronto Police. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. Time now for our first check of the forecast. Here's a live look at the city. A nice sun-cloud mix today, comfortable and still warm out there, but there is some rain on the way along with humidity. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jessica.
It's the time of year where we switch over from complaining about the cold to complaining about the humidity, but I'll take it. We've had a beautiful day today, but we're watching this system that is making its way in, set to start in that southwestern corner through Windsor, and then very patchy track its way towards us. It's quite large and expands in towards the prairies as well, and it will make its way in as we head through the next couple of days before another wave comes in. So this is a multi-wave system. It sounds more intense than it might be, but just a good idea to be prepared. Temperature-wise, very mild. As we step in towards the end of the day, a bit of a ridge over Ontario continues with the jet stream, making it really warm out there and comfortable if you want to spend some time outside. Through the islands and Pearson, still really beautiful out there. But things are changing in the next few days. Coming up, your full forecast right now. Over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Next to a developing story in Brampton, where police are investigating after an afternoon shooting. This video from the CTV News helicopter shows the scene, which is around Chinguacousy Park. Peel police say one victim was shot and transported to hospital in stable condition. At the time of the shooting, a high school track and field meet was happening in the area.
Police in Durham are looking for a man after a woman was found dead inside an Oshawa home. Police got the call to do a wellness check on someone at a home near Rideau Street and Saguenay Avenue at around 7 this morning. When they entered the home, they found the woman dead inside. Investigators say they've been unable to locate a man they say is connected to both the victim and the home. Police are looking for 31-year-old Lal Kanimpuza Poulos. They say he's believed to be driving a blue Ford Escape with Ontario plate number CXKZ784. Police say if you see Poulos or his vehicle, you are not to approach and to call 911.
In Whitby, a man is dead after a workplace accident involving a steamroller. It happened at a work site near Hopkins Street and Consumers Drive. Police received a call around 11:30 that a man was trapped unconscious beneath the machine. He did not survive. The Ministry of Labor is investigating.
And one man's in police custody after a stabbing last night in Uxbridge. Investigators say it happened at around 5 o'clock at a business near Douglas Road and Toronto Street South. It's believed the suspect and the victim got into an altercation at a restaurant, and the suspect chased the victim to a nearby business where the stabbing occurred. The victim suffered minor injuries. A 26-year-old man from Stouffville is facing a number of charges.
Still to come tonight, relief for some transit users. The TTC announces dozens of bus routes will be getting increased service. Details on where and when the changes will take place just ahead. But at this hour, demonstrators are gathering outside the Israeli Consulate in Toronto for a protest. CTV's Beth Macton now is there live and joins us with the details. Beth.
Michelle, protesters are once again on the street voicing their anger, this time as Israel carries out a military operation in Rafah in southern Gaza. According to Islamic Relief Canada, around 1.5 million people have been squeezed into Rafah after many were told to leave their homes by Israel. The organization says the death toll from over the last 7 months is staggering, and Canada's stance should reflect one of humanitarian values, human rights, and the pursuit of peace. It, along with the protesters here, want to see the conflict end.
This is the moment. There are no more moments left after this. This is literally the final stage. Israel has cleared North Gaza. It has cleared central Gaza. It is now working on clearing southern Gaza, and it's the last point they have left to clear. And the Palestinians have nowhere to go.
I feel that it's my duty and my obligation to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to do so.
The plan tonight is for this rally to continue for some time. Then protesters plan to take to the streets and march downtown. It's not clear yet if they will be stopping by the encampment at the University of Toronto. Reporting live at Yonge and Bloor, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Still to come tonight, the latest on the situation in the Middle East as Israel's military continues to move into Rafah, a day after Hamas said they were open to a ceasefire proposal. Bus service in Toronto is getting a boost.
Beginning this Sunday, the city is increasing service on 24 bus routes, which the TTC says will drive service hours very close to pre-pandemic levels. If you ride the bus in Etobicoke, North York, and Scarborough, waiting to get from A to B can be a challenge.
There are some lines where the frequency of the bus is not doesn't come as often. And there are also times when the wait times that are scheduled are completely off.
I would say greater frequency with certain buses. Usually there's not a lot of this bus specifically going around like the 43, especially like after school and stuff. There's like shortage. We're always out here waiting.
But come this Sunday, May 12th, the city and the TTC say 24 routes, mostly in the suburbs and during off-peak hours, are getting increased bus service. It includes buses on Don Mills, Finch and Steeles, and express routes on Jane, Markham, and York Mills.
Delivering the highest level of service since the pandemic. And what that means is we're actually adding thousands of hours across the city at all times a day, bringing service to 96% of pre-pandemic levels.
I hear from people that they want more buses. That's what they want. They want more buses more frequently, shorter wait times, a comfortable ride, not jammed like sardines.
The city says ridership is growing, currently at 80% compared to 2019 levels. It's hoped more service will fuel a better commute.
And the TTC is warning riders of upcoming changes to bus service at Pape Station. Starting Sunday, the bus terminal will be fully closed for approximately 6 months to accommodate the construction of a new underground station as part of the Ontario line. The transit agency says 72A and 72C will be the only routes serving Pape Station on street. Other routes will either be suspended or diverted to Broadview Station. The TTC also says subway service may be disrupted at Pape Station during the Ontario line construction.
We're learning more about the circumstances behind what put a high-ranking police officer in a disciplinary tribunal for helping constables cheat on promotional exams.
As CTV's John Woodward reports, Clark was put on the front lines defending the Toronto Police Service's relationship with the Black community when privately she had serious doubts.
I'm a police officer. I've got the lived experience in those lens. I am a Black woman.
That's the Toronto Police's first Black female superintendent, Stacey Clark, talking about her dual identities. This video recorded as part of a podcast sponsored by the Toronto Police in April 2021, just 7 months before her career went into a tailspin.
I feel the responsibility to lift as I am climbing. There is a true ownership of that position that I continue to pave the way for others.
Clark paved the way for 6 other racialized officers by sending them photographs of the questions and answers for a promotional exam. She pleaded guilty to 7 counts of misconduct. The hearing this week to determine the punishment. One question, according to case materials obtained by CTV News, actually about how an officer would approach the police service's fractured relationship with Black and Indigenous communities. The filings show Clark sent the constables the information as little as half an hour before the scheduled interviews. She also didn't disclose she was family friends with one candidate on her panel. Her actions marring an otherwise unblemished career. The tensions between her dual identities came to a boil after the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minnesota police officers.
After George Floyd, it took an enormous toll on me personally as well as professionally.
Clark was dispatched to diffuse tensions from the Black community, she said, something she told the hearing caused her immense pain, particularly because she had lost faith the service was following through on promises to promote qualified black officers, and as an internal police report showed how pervasive workplace harassment there was. She said in a letter to an inspector, "I tried to be an ally for these candidates, but quickly started to feel that my efforts were falling on deaf ears. I felt at the time that they did not have a fair chance in this process." The service says it won't try to fire Clark, just demote her 2 ranks and have her work her way back up from inspector. Her lawyer says she should be reinstated to superintendent after a year.
As a police officer, is that I have the ability to amplify the voices of community on the inside. That only makes us better police officers.
Clark is expected to testify this week in a hearing that has become as much about her as it is about the dynamics in the Toronto Police Service itself. John Woodward, CTV News.
At Queen's Park today, a gathering of First Nations leaders from across the province calling for equal access to justice.
Their concerns involve recent legislation which governs policing in this province. Legislation they say doesn't provide enough guidance when it comes to First Nations issues. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
They came to the People's House from reserves across the province, demanding change.
We are part of Ontario, but we are treated in such a very different way. It's so discriminatory.
The Chiefs of Ontario are filing suit against the provincial and federal governments because they allege their communities aren't getting equal access to justice.
First Nation laws in Ontario are not being enforced by police, and they are not being prosecuted.
The concern stems from the act governing police that took effect last month.
It's a racist piece of legislation.
Indigenous leaders allege the Community Safety and Policing Act is ambiguous on enforcement of things like First Nation tenancy laws.
You don't have the kind of protections that everyone else in Ontario would have from illegal eviction, or if you have a dangerous tenant, how to get that person out.
The chief's claims haven't been tested in court, and the government didn't engage in calls for help.
As this matter is before the court, it would be inappropriate for me to comment any further.
An answer dismissed as a lame excuse.
We're tired of having to bring everything through a lawsuit or a human rights complaint. Can we not sit at a table and negotiate this?
Colleen says he needs backup for the police service he leads on Manitoulin Island.
We have drug trafficking, we have organized crime, human trafficking, and when you see the way human trafficking is tied into murder and missing Indigenous women and girls.
It's why he feels being able to enforce things like First Nations trespassing laws is vital.
To remove that person from the community when we know that they're there for criminal activity is a huge power for First Nations communities.
This group wants the Policing Act amended.
Add us in there and enforce our laws. Otherwise, you're leaving our women and children vulnerable.
Another concern raised by Ontario chiefs is a lack of funding for policing their communities, whether that work is done by the OPP or a First Nations service. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
In the Middle East, Israel has been threatening to move into Rafah for months, and today it rolled through the southern Gaza city to its border with Egypt.
It's a move that threatens to derail ceasefire talks. CTV's Mike LeCouture reports.
Israel's military rolled into Rafah, determined to seize control of the key border crossing on the southern tip of Gaza. Video obtained by Reuters appears to show tanks bulldozing signs and soldiers raising Israeli flags, all at the direction of Israel's prime minister. Benjamin Netanyahu says taking Rafah serves 2 goals: the return of the hostages and the elimination of Hamas. Gaza field hospitals were once again filled with casualties as Israel's warning for people to flee came too late for many. The Israeli military says it launched targeted airstrikes, while video showed massive destruction in residential areas of Rafah. I never saw a war like this war, says this man. Trust me, I wanted to move, I couldn't. All of this comes 24 hours after Hamas had responded to a ceasefire proposal, one that Israel said was far from its requirements. As Israel controls the Gaza side of the Rafah crossing with Egypt, there is concern desperately needed humanitarian aid will slow to a trickle or be cut off altogether.
It's hard to see if that closes for an extended period how aid agencies avert famine across the Gaza Strip.
Disturbed and distressed by the developments, the head of the United Nations is asking Israel to stop.
Even the best friends of Israel are clear. An assault on Rafah would be a strategic mistake, a political calamity, and a humanitarian nightmare.
Those calls for calm echoed by the Foreign Affairs Minister.
Canada continues to put pressure on the Israeli officials and government, and also working with our allies.
All of this puts the potential ceasefire on the brink of collapse, as a Hamas official has said if Israel continues its military aggression in Rafah, the deal is off. Mike Lecoulteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
Ukraine says its counterintelligence investigators have foiled a Russian plot to assassinate President Volodymyr Zelensky. 2 colonels working for an agency that protects top Ukrainian officials have been arrested. They were recruited before the war and are accused of preparing to carry out a plan drawn up by Moscow. Kyiv says the Russians wanted to find military people close to the president's security detail who are willing to kidnap and kill Zelensky and other top officials. In 2022, the president said there have been at least 10 attempts to assassinate him.
6 young siblings have been returned to Canada from a detention camp in Syria. Global Affairs says the government of Canada has taken extraordinary measures to repatriate 6 Canadian children from northeastern Syria. The focus is now on protecting the children's privacy and ensuring they receive the support and care needed to begin a new life here in Canada. They were among 22 people repatriated by the United States today. The children are now in Montreal, where staff at a specialized clinic are helping get them settled. Ottawa refused to let their Quebec-born mother return to Canada for security reasons. She left the camp, but her whereabouts are unknown.
Canada's main spy agencies issued another warning about Chinese interference in our democratic process. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service says persistent election meddling by Beijing has the potential to undermine Canadian democracy. CSIS reports that China used deceptive methods in a bid to influence policymaking at all levels of government, as well as in academia and the media. An official inquiry found that Beijing tried to interfere in the last 2 federal elections.
In New York, Stormy Daniels testified for several hours, going into great detail today at the so-called hush money trial of Donald Trump. The adult film actress alleges she had a sexual encounter with him in 2006. Trump is now accused of falsifying business records to cover up payment for her silence prior to the 2016 election. Daniels told jurors her life descended into chaos after the arrangement was made public in 2018. Trump's legal team asked for a mistrial, saying some of Daniels' testimony inflamed the jury. It was denied. Meanwhile, Trump's classified documents trial in Florida has been indefinitely postponed. There are issues concerning classified evidence that need to be resolved before the case goes to a jury. Coming up on CTV News, changing the landscape of women's sports. PWHL Toronto star Sarah Nurse reflects on her incredible run in the inaugural season and what's to come as she prepares for playoff action tomorrow.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, do you have a line of credit on your home? Many Canadians do, to help with expenses and renovations. If you have life insurance on your line of credit, did you know it can expire once you reach a certain age? I'll have the details. That's just ahead.
And even with the active weather on the way tomorrow, if you live with allergies, it's going to be a little bit challenging out there. We're looking at high levels really right across the board. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, breaking down this system on the way. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
About 8 million Canadians have a home equity line of credit, also known as HELOC. It's a way to tap into the capital in your home.
If you take money out of your property, you need to pay it back with interest, but you can also take out life insurance on a line of credit as well. Pat Ford explains on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. A couple took out a line of credit for $150,000, and they also wanted it to come with life insurance. But they didn't know some banks terminate a life insurance policy as soon as you turn 70 years old.
So how did you feel when they said, you're not insured?
Devastated. Devastated.
John Richards will turn 80 years old this month, and he still works as a crossing guard where he lives in Uxbridge. His wife Sandra died last November. They were married for 50 years.
I wish she was here, but it wasn't to be. I think about her every day.
When Sandra was 69 years old, she took out a $150,000 line of credit on their home. They used some money to travel for upgrades and other expenses. Richard says it was their understanding the line of credit was covered by life insurance. His interest payment is now almost $800 each month.
I thought the charge that they were charging me included the insurance.
But when Sandra died at 75 years of age, Richards found out their line of credit was not insured. Their bank does not provide life insurance for customers on a line of credit once they reach 70 years of age.
I had no idea that at 70 they could just say, we're not insuring you anymore.
The line of credit is with TD Bank, and it does say in their terms and conditions you can apply for life insurance if you're 18 to 69 years old. TD Bank told CTV News in a statement it's an unfortunate situation and we offer our condolences, and that to preserve our customers' privacy, TD cannot comment on the specifics of the case. We encourage Canadians to speak with an insurance advisor to find the coverage that best meets their needs and to review their policies regularly. Other Canadian banks also terminate life insurance policies on lines of credit once a customer turns 70. Some also do it when a client turns 65 or 75 years old. Richard says he wishes he would have known about the policy, as paying the money back now will be difficult.
I can't pay that off. So I'm sitting here on a fixed income. So if I have to pay the stupid thing off, I could be dead by that time.
And if you have a line of credit with a lender, you may want to check the terms and conditions when it comes to insurance. You may also be able to buy additional coverage somewhere else to cover any debts you may owe. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Another splendid day in the city and right across the region. We had the warmth, we had the sunshine, and now the weather's taken a turn. But I think we got 2 solid days.
Yeah, I feel like we're on the right side of spring.
We are, and we have what is going to be a really unsettled weather pattern for the next 3 days. We're already seeing some alerts pop up towards Windsor, through London, Chatham, Kent. We're not under any currently, but those things can change very quickly. We're in that time of year where we're still battling with that warm and cold air, and at that intersection comes some spring storms. So be prepared over the next few days. We're not in the thick of it here in the city, but we are just on the cusp of some messy weather. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. But I'm going to focus on the positive first, and that's how lovely it has been throughout the entire day. But it's easy to get a burn, even if we don't have brilliant sunshine outside. The UV index is still very high. You still need sun protection, sunscreen, long sleeves if you can, a hat, and sunglasses. Protect yourself as we kind of tiptoe in towards the warmer weather. We're still sitting at about 20 degrees right now, 18 through Windsor, 21 through Ottawa, even northern Ontario through Red Lake, through Thunder Bay, we're between 13 and 19 degrees. The jet stream that separates that cold and warm air, it's sitting really high, so almost the entire province benefiting from warmer air. Into the evening, it will be humid out there. About 13, we should be at 8. We start to see the patchy active weather roll into that southwestern corner around 9:30, 10 p.m., and then it trickles towards us. Into the day tomorrow, really warm as well, 22. We should be at 18. Everybody really mild right across the board. But we're looking at really patchy weather. So this is where that instability comes in. So we'll time everything out. The line of showers is going to make its way in as we head again through the evening tonight and into the day tomorrow. We do have those severe weather watches in place. First you watch and then you warn. So we're looking at watches right now through Windsor, Chatham, Kent, and Sarnia. But we're likely to see those expand as we head through the overnight and into the day tomorrow. The first wave of showers comes through, but there's another low on the way. This is kind of a multi-low system as we get into the next kind of 48, 72 hours. Timing everything out again around 9:30, 10 o'clock through Windsor, through London, up towards Hamilton. Rain heavy at times along with the risk of thunderstorms. For us, it skirts just south of the city, so that south and west corner of the downtown core, probably getting the bulk of it. So if you're, say, in Etobicoke, you'll get more than the downtown core will. Heading into the start of the day tomorrow, a little bit of sunshine. We get a bit of lunchtime shower activity again, north end of the city, getting the bulk of that, and then a break into the evening. And then another round of showers comes in as we head in towards Thursday, but the bulk of this staying south of us. So we're likely to get some drizzle. So we're just watching kind of the tip of the system as we get into the next couple of days. Temperature-wise, above seasonal tomorrow, below seasonal Thursday, and then heading into Friday, the bulk of this will start to push out. It's not a wash over the next few days, but keep in mind this will be really unsettled. But by the time we get to Saturday, Sunday for Mother's Day, the mother figure in your life, beautiful. And then beyond that, seasonal and sunny. Nathan, I'll send things back to you.
Thank you, Jessica. Also tonight, the plight of patients who opt for care outside of their family doctor. A GTA mother scolded for sending her son to a walk-in clinic when their family doc wasn't available. We delve into the reality of doctors de-enrolling patients.
It's an unwelcome surprise for some Ontarians, finding out their family doctor will no longer see them because they sought help elsewhere.
In some cases, the patients say they needed urgent treatment and their doctor wasn't available. CTV's John Musselman reports on the issue of de-enrollment.
Last month, Jenny Carr says her teenage son, seen here on the left of this photo, woke up with a sore throat. She needed to get him in to see her family doctor.
My son has seasonal strep throat. He gets it every year without fail, so I was quite confident that that's what the issue was, and it would have been a simple 10-minute appointment, get him antibiotics, we're on our way.
But Carr's regular doctor at her Mississauga family health team was not available that day, so she decided to go to a walk-in clinic. Her son was treated in 15 minutes and he was feeling better within 3 days. But last week, Carr says she got an email from her doctor that surprised her.
I received an email from my doctor scolding me for taking my son to a walk-in clinic because they get billed when you take them to a walk-in clinic. And out of respect for my relationship with my doctor, I should wait until he has availability. And if it is an emergency, then take him to an emergency room.
Carr's situation is specific to physicians associated with a family health organization or network. According to the province, these doctors are compensated through a combination of fee for service and pay per patient. When a patient receives care outside of the family network, Carr was told her doctors get personally billed for the cost of that visit. In some cases, doctors are threatening to de-enroll patients who do it. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Health confirmed this practice, saying in a statement, quote, "In certain circumstances, when a patient receives care from more than one healthcare provider, an enrolling physician may decide to de-enroll a patient." Carr says she wasn't de-enrolled by her family health clinic, but she was offended by the email and has since found a new doctor for her family. John Musselman, CTV News in Mississauga.
An Oakville dad is on a mission to raise money to help kids with epilepsy attend summer camp.
Health reporter Pauline Chan has the story.
There was a time when Daniel McGallis couldn't ride his bike because of all his seizures.
It was very hard. I felt very dizzy and I kept on falling a lot.
He was 3 when the seizures began.
We still don't know why it started. We still don't know why it ended.
They started counting his seizures per day, and at one point were counting seizures per minute. And on top of the medical problems, there was the stigma.
Other kids, for example, would look at Daniel having a seizure and be afraid of it, and think it, that was something wrong with his brain, like he was going crazy or something like that.
It took years and trying different medications and therapies, but eventually the seizures just stopped after Daniel began a ketogenic diet.
I sometimes play tennis and pickleball too. I like running.
Yeah.
Swimming.
And now Daniel can even accompany his dad for the final leg of his 300-kilometer ride for epilepsy, South Central Ontario.
Epilepsy is the third most common neurological condition and unfortunately does not get any government funding.
The ride on May 25th will reach all major towns in the organization's catchment area and will fund Sunny Days Camp for kids aged 5 to 15.
With children living with epilepsy, a lot of times they get turned away from other camps. With this camp, not only do we not turn away them, but we invite both the brother and sister because epilepsy affects the whole family.
Trevor Gordon says with trained staff, the kids can do any activities.
We take them swimming, we take them rock climbing.
And you can find out more at epilepsyseo.org. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
It was the biggest night in celebrity fashion.
Andrea Case has more on the hits and misses at last night's Met Gala.
When it comes to commanding the red carpet at the Met Gala, co-chair Zendaya understood the assignment. She first appeared in a John Galliano creation, this year's theme, Garden of Time, based on a 1962 short story by J.G. Ballard about a count whose castle is overrun by commoners. Co-chair Jennifer Lopez dazzled in a near-nude Schiaparelli gown. They say it takes a village. For Cardi B, 9 attendants were required to display her dress, and for some, extra hands were needed just to make it up the stairs and into the event. Some outfits needed an explanation. Doja Cat says her wet look outfit represents the most commonly used flower in fashion, cotton. Demi Moore's outfit was made from vintage archival wallpaper and took 11,000 hours to embroider. Gigi Hadid's tuxedo gown took 70 people over 13,500 hours to create. It will live in designer Tom Brown's permanent archive. And Kim Kardashian looked as though she could barely breathe with her cinched waist and perhaps a little chilly, wrapping herself in a sweater. In a move not seen before on the Met red carpet, Zendaya returned in an archival piece from 2007 McQueen collection and a Philip Tracy hat. With the eyes of the world on the red carpet, luxury line Chloe chose to use it as an opportunity to advertise their brand, dressing stars in its latest line regardless of the dress code. And Norwegian billionaire and model Gustav Magnar Witzu dressed in a coral, scaly bodysuit. Coincidentally, his wealth comes from his family's salmon fish farming empire. Not far from the red carpet, pro-Palestinian protesters were blocked by police and metal barriers from disrupting the gala, which cost $75,000 a ticket. A number of people were arrested. Andrea Case, CTV News, Toronto.
Still ahead, breaking the ice with a hockey star who is breaking barriers. We get some ice time with PWHL Toronto's Sarah Nurse as the team prepares for the playoffs.
Outside of the gates, in front of the residence when the shooting occurred.
Updating our top stories, Toronto police are investigating after a shooting in the Bridle Path. According to investigators, a security guard was shot while on duty outside the mansion belonging to Drake. That security guard was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. So far, police have not released any information about possible suspects.
I heard about 1 o'clock. I heard blam, 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 blam.
One man is dead and a woman is in hospital after an early morning shooting near Oakwood in Eglinton. Area residents say the victim was well known and well liked.
Delivering the highest level of service since the pandemic. And what that means is we're actually adding thousands of hours across the city.
And welcome news for bus riders in the city. The TTC announces 24 routes will be getting increased service. The city says ridership is growing and sits at about 80% of pre-pandemic levels.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
Social media company TikTok is fighting back in court against a move by the U.S. government to ban it. BNN Bloomberg's Amber Kanwar has the story in tonight's Business Report.
TikTok is suing the U.S. government over a recently signed law that would force the company to either sell itself or face a ban in the U.S. Last month, U.S. President Joe Biden signed the bill into law, giving China-based TikTok owner ByteDance less than a year to take action or face the consequences on national security grounds. TikTok says the law stifles free speech and hurts small business creators. And in a legal filing in an appeals court in D.C. today, the company argued exactly that. ByteDance argues that the law is unconstitutional and says it has no intention of finding a buyer for its U.S. business ahead of the January deadline. Now let's take a look at the closing market numbers. The Canadian dollar edged down modestly to below 73 cents U.S. Oil prices in the U.S. slipped below $79 per barrel, while Canadian energy prices edged up modestly just under $67 per barrel. It was an up day on the TSX, adding 31 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Amber Kanwar in the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Google is taking Canada's broadcasting regulator to court. The company argues revenue it earns from ads on YouTube video shouldn't be considered when it comes to the regulatory fees it owes the CRTC. Google says those revenues come from user-generated content, which it argues should be excluded from fee calculations because of exemptions in the Broadcasting Act.
It will still be a few years before Canadian currency features King Charles III. The Bank of Canada plans to issue a $20 bill in early 2027 that will feature the new head of state. There are more than $1 billion $20 banknotes in circulation. It will ultimately be up to the Minister of Finance to approve the form and material of the new $20 banknote.
The CFL suspended Toronto Argonauts quarterback Chad Kelly for at least 9 regular season games and the team's 2 preseason games. The move follows the league's investigation into a lawsuit filed by a former strength and conditioning coach against the player and the team. Before being considered for reinstatement, Kelly must complete assessments by an independent expert and attend mandatory counseling sessions conducted by a gender-based violence expert. The complainant alleged a pattern of harassment, beginning with unwanted romantic advances and then instances of threatening language. Kelly denies the allegations.
PWHL Toronto has chosen who they will face in their first-round playoff series.
The parity in the league is so tight, and it was a difficult decision to choose who to play.
We collaborated as players and as staff, and we're really excited to select. Big throw.
As the top seed, Toronto has its choice between 3rd seed Boston and 4th seed Minnesota as its first playoff opponent. Toronto went with Minnesota, with Game 1 set for tomorrow. 2nd seed Montreal will take on Boston. All of the PWHL playoff games will air on TSN.
And for many players in the PWHL, this season has been a dream come true.
Among them, a Hamilton native who's made it big on the international stage and is now getting the chance to shine right here at home. CTV's Sean Leathong spoke one-on-one with Sarah Nurse.
It's the last game of the regular season. Toronto's Sarah Nurse is looking for an opening. She's worked tirelessly on her game, so when she finds a lane, the results follow. This goal capping off an incredible run.
Playing with and against the best players in the world is going to make you better, and that's what we've been able to do for the last 6 months.
Toronto takes all!
The first season of the Professional Women's Hockey League has been a whirlwind, from the opening puck drop with Billie Jean King on New Year's Day to a world record-setting crowd of over 19,000 at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, only to break that record with 21,000 people attending a game at the Bell Centre in Montreal. Nurse has played in front of big crowds before.
But I'll tell you, this year at Scotiabank Arena and the Bell Centre, it felt different. The energy in the building, the buzz, it felt different.
Sarah Nurse, she scores!
Nurse ended the game in Montreal in overtime, a player seizing the moment they've created.
We have the chance to really change the landscape of women's sports and show off every opportunity we can.
Stomp your feet, start clapping, got a real good feeling, something bad about to happen.
For Nurse, seen here with teammate Olivia Knowles, changing the landscape of women's sports has been a fun ride, attracting a lot of attention for Nurse and her fellow players.
When we're in our off time, when we have a media day, like, we're going to have fun. We're going to play around our jerseys. We're going to showcase our personality. And so that's been a really cool factor this year.
That has made Nurse one of the faces of the PWHL, with her personal Instagram following at 128,000 and another 100,000 on TikTok. Nurse says it helps the players connect with fans, and the players have noticed.
Whether we're home or away, and have fans lined up 3-4 hours before the game to get a photo or an autograph. And I think that's what means the most to us, because people do care.
Having grown up in Hamilton, the 29-year-old has worn the Maple Leaf for Team Canada since the 2013 Under-18 tournament. She's won Olympic gold and 3 world championships. Nurse comes from a family of athletes with cousins Darnell and Kia playing both in the NHL and WNBA respectively. Nurse watched as her family members turned pro, but
I never thought that I'd get the opportunity to play professional hockey, an hour from where I grew up.
PWHL Toronto finished first overall and are preparing to take on Minnesota in the first round of the playoffs. As a sign of the league's success, the Toronto team is now moving their playoff games from the 2,500-seat Mattamy Centre to the over 8,000-capacity Coca-Cola Coliseum.
We've been here for so long doing what we're doing, but now people have finally had the opportunity to watch us do our thing.
And with the playoffs starting tomorrow, they've only just begun. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hey y'all to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Children from across Canada are being honored tonight at the Future Is Now Awards. 10 kids from across the country are being honored for their efforts to make Canada a better place. They're receiving individual awards for their work to address things like bullying, climate change, and mental health.
Children First Canada is a national charity that's dedicated to making Canada the best place in the world for kids to grow up. We are mobilizing a national movement to equip children and youth with their rights and responsibilities to be leaders and change makers, not just of the future, but as leaders right now.
This event is important to me because now there's so many issues and we need to find the best solutions to solve them. There's child poverty, mental health, bullying, racism, climate change, so many more issues that we just need to find the best solutions to solve. And people, the award winners are doing great work and we want to recognize them in the best way possible.
The awards will be handed out later tonight at Weston Harbor Castle. What a bright kid.
Congratulations to all of them. Amazing. Hey, there's folks on the water tonight. I mean, that speaks to the conditions.
It's beautiful outside right now. The messy weather for us comes in after probably about 10:30. We start to see this trickle into the GTA, and then for the downtown core, it's kind of an overnight situation. So just be prepared for some messy weather. Right now, we're watching this system pushing its way in, prompting some severe thunderstorm watches down towards that southwestern corner. As we head in towards the day tomorrow, this wide sweeping system will push its way in, but in a few pockets. It's not a washout of a day. Right now, I'm focusing on the fact that it's still 20 degrees out there, but for the kids tomorrow, the rain gear will be needed in the second half of the day. Looking ahead to the weekend, I'm not trying to skip through the week, but I'm looking at Saturday and Sunday. Pretty nice.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. Be sure to join Morella Fernandez tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.